Grand Rising, and welcome to part 2 of our show with Torild Boe. Grand Rising, Torild.
Grand Rising.
Thank you for coming back. As soon as we finished the show last week, questions came in, and we realized we had to get Torild back to answer a few of these questions. So, Torild, thank you very much for coming back and joining us, because as I've learned during this week, there's so much that people would like to know, would wish to learn about. For the last time, I'm going to use the word menopause for this second spring.
Brilliant. I love it. Yeah, no, thanks for having me back. It's such an honor, and it's so, just shows how people really do want to talk about this and learn. And yeah, there's a big need for that. So thank you for having me back.
Thank you. Thank you for being back. And for those who are interested, watch part 1 of our podcast. It's going to be on the YouTube page. So the reason why we felt like we needed a part 2 is right after the podcast, I was actually talking to my mom, and she missed the live podcast, but then she watched the recording of it, and she got very excited and very interested in it. And she was a little upset because she wanted to watch. She was upset that she missed the live because she had questions to ask. And she sent some of those questions, but just her excitement after hearing the podcast and her interest, I thought, oh wow, I gotta call Ron, because I think we missed a very important part of including into the podcast. So we talked, and I said, why don't we see if we can do a part 2 where women send in questions and send their experience in, because we felt like that was a very important part. So here we are now.
That's great. Yeah, no, I'm glad that people engaged with it, and also great that if some of the women have shared their experiences. That's interesting. Be interesting to hear what they've said.
Okay, shall we go with the questions then, Ade? Do you want to start with your question first?
Sure. Lydia from Brooklyn, New York. Excuse me. From your work with women in this area, have they reported any sleep issues when they get to the premenopausal phase? And if so, does the insomnia continue into menopausal phase?
Yeah, interesting. I myself have experienced sleep deprivation, and I think that's one of the really common signs of the perimenopause, because this is also the stage where not only your periods start becoming more erratic, like we talked about last time, and hormones are fluctuating at the sort of highest levels. So that causes, amongst others, night sweats. And this was one of the reasons for myself anyway, that I would stay awake during the nights, but also maybe, and I think somebody else mentioned that, some restless legs and different things. And if you're feeling anxious, that obviously also can make you stay awake at night. So yeah, definitely, that's very common, a common sign that I hear from a lot of women. Which has a huge effect on, work life, family life, etc. So how long it lasts, it just depends. It's so individual. That's the thing with the perimenopause and menopause. It's such a not one story fits all. So it really just depends on how you choose. Well, it depends on how you experience it, first of all, but also then how you holistically or with HRT choose to nourish and replace potentially hormones. I found that when I was on, I'm not on HRT currently, but when I was on HRT, because it was really a problem for me, that really upping the estrogen levels, replacing the estrogen, really helped with my sleep actually, and reducing the night sweats.
Okay, that's great.
Yeah. So that helps, but it's how long it lasts is really impossible to say because it varies so much from woman to woman. But there are many things that can be done. I don't know if you want me to say a little bit about what I did to aid sleep or what I do. So, you know, first of all, if you suffer from having to go to the toilet, that's another thing as well, because our urinary system, again, we talked about it last week, I think, is also impacted by the drop in estrogen levels. So the amount of water, it's very important to keep hydrated, because otherwise you may have issues with for example, restless legs or twitchy legs, etc. And that is made worse if you are dehydrated. So it's important to stay hydrated. However, maybe stopping earlier at night drinking liquids is definitely beneficial. That's what I've tried to do. But also things like exercise, you know, maybe you need to look at doing different types of exercise at this stage. Yoga, I find excellent. The legs up the wall position before you go into bed, for example, is fantastic. Meditation, all these things really, really helps me to sleep. And then if you're someone who suffers from, which I've had a lot of, restless legs, I find that placing a pillow, a small pillow between my legs, between the knees and the upper parts of the knees or the legs, really helps make, you know, aiding me go to sleep. And I was going to say one more thing around that. Yeah. And then magnesium. I've been taking magnesium tablets to help the restless leg syndrome. So, yeah.
Okay, great. So there's a few things that Lydia, you can try out, and it's my mom, by the way.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I hope that helps your mom.
There's a question from Lisa in London. She says, does perimenopause run in the family?
Does perimenopause run in the family? I presume what Lisa means is it likely to have the same experience as your mum?
I think it was in regards to having it early. Or it seems
early. Yeah, so those are two different things.
Yeah.
Yes, that can be how do you say, inheritary? That can run in the family, but also lifestyle has a huge or has a big impact on early menopause. So that, for example, smoking, drinking alcohol, being overweight, etc., that can also have a big impact. So if you're a smoker, for example, you may have even earlier menopause, onset of menopause than your mum would have had. There's other factors also, like I think we touched upon last week, certain cancers, chemotherapy, hysterectomy, that can, and other factors too, that can onset early menopause.
Another question here, and this came up a couple times. How best to explain to your partner if they're not willing to hear or ready to understand?
It's a really good question. I think we talked about it a little bit in the first video also. I mean, I feel that there's a lot of information out there now. I've sent you a few of the links that maybe you can share after this talk as well. There's a few websites that I would really recommend that gives really comprehensive information for what happens during menopause and how the woman may be feeling. And let me just, for the sake of good order, when I say women in menopause, I do include everyone that's going through menopause, but to just to explain that. But I think it's really important to involve your partner in in educating and giving information. So whether there's a book that you could have at home. I just started listening to Davina McCall's new book called Menopausing. It's just come out a few weeks ago, I think. I'm listening to it on audio, and I have to say it's excellent. She's got a menopause specialist with her who comes in to talk about the facts and what happens from a medical perspective. And then also there's women's stories and a lot of different stories, some very upsetting stories, actually. So perhaps that's something one could do together, listen to an audio together, choose the chapters that feel relevant, read, and just really, be open and honest about how one's feeling. Yes.
And put in some of those links in the comment section for people.
Yeah.
Okay.
I noticed on LinkedIn today, but I cannot remember the exact title now, but it was a book for men about the menopause. Just remember that now. And if you Google men and menopause and book, I'll just see if I can find it here, because that looked very good and comprehensive, and a sort of, a small book, not a big fat book. It's a small book, so easy to get through. Men and menopause. There's fantastic podcasts out there. If you go to the podcast library, or if you search people again like Davina McCall, Mariella Frostrup, Newson Health, Naomi Potter. There's a lot. I can give more links after this talk today, but there's a lot of information out there in the UK anyway. That's the market I know the best.
Thank you. Okay. Now here's something that I heard quite a bit. So I pull it from a couple of people, so I pull it into one question.
Ron, sorry to interrupt you. I just found that book that I saw on LinkedIn, actually, and it's called Men and then ... Let's Talk Menopause.
Men ... Let's Talk Menopause.
Yeah.
Okay, I just put it in there.
Yeah. Sorry.
Okay, yeah. So I was saying, there was a question that I got asked, well, a statement from a few people, and it goes, my mother told me just to get on with it. I tell myself just to get on with it. And I tell my daughter just to get on with it. What other choice do we have?
Yes, because it is a choice, isn't it? I think that, currently there's around 13 million people in the UK alone going through perimenopause and menopause. 1 in 10 really suffers, probably more, but 1 in 10 in the workplace really suffers and consider leaving their jobs because of the symptoms. We live in this country apparently an average of 81 years. So that has really, really changed. If you think back 100 years, it's changed so much. So women would die after their menopause a long time ago, but still.
Wow.
And so we work longer. We have maybe bigger jobs today. We have families, we have houses, there's so much more. So I kind of feel like, why should we just get on with it? And why should we just have this stoicism around being women and just getting on with it when there are different choices and when there is help out there? I certainly want to blossom in my post-menopause and have, my last however many years I'm going to live. I want those to be really good years and not be stopped by horrendous, night sweats or anxiety attacks, etc., because of the menopause. So, but ultimately, of course, it's a choice that each and everyone has to make for themselves.
And I don't know if this question has been asked yet, but a viewer asked, does menopause end?
Does it end? Yes, I guess it does end, but it's again very individual how long it lasts. Like today, I listened to a podcast by a doctor who said she saw a patient a few weeks ago of 75, I think she was, who still had hot flushes. But the average is is probably 5 to 8 years or so. So it does end, but you do have health concerns linked to the lack of estrogen that we have to be conscious and mindful of going into postmenopause. So things like heart disease, osteoporosis, the bone disease, things like those are important to prepare for, so that we go into postmenopause and older age prepare for this, because this affects a lot of women. If you're not, if you don't take precautions, and whether you choose to take HRT or whether you do this through diet, exercise, really it's a holistic thing anyways. You can't just take HRT and forget about building bone density, etc. So I hope that sort of helps answer that.
Does a question here, does HRT go against the natural cycle of the body?
So HRT stands for hormone replacement therapy. And like last week, I have to re-emphasize, I am not a medical doctor. So the best place to go for really, good, valid information of HRT and the benefits and new research, because there is a lot of new research coming out, is to go to either, there's a very good app called Balance by Dr. Louise Newson. I also gave you another few links to have a look at. Does it replaces hormones? That's what it does. So simply it tops up or replaces hormones that are lost. If you stop HRT, you don't go back to the menopause. Your life carries on, if you see what I mean. So it simply replaces hormones.
A question from Joanne in Hastings, and I think this may have been asked, but I'll ask it again anyway. What is causing the hot flushes and the body twitches?
Yes, so again, or the drop in estrogen levels affects every single cell in our bodies. So the drop in estrogen also then causes our the body temperature that it can't regulate it in the same way it did before. So that when you have when your body temperature increases, which it does by 0.1 to 0.3, I think, degrees, then the hot flushes come in to sort of regulate and cool your body down, actually. So that's what happens, which is quite interesting. And this happens to, I think, 70% of women going through the menopause. It's a huge amount of women who have these. That's why we often also talk about that symptom as one of the, that's why people know of that symptom, most of all of them. However, there's more than 35, 40 symptoms of menopause, perimenopause.
So here's a question that I think we may have already addressed in some way, but it's, as a woman gets older, it appears that in the medical profession, your menopausal symptoms are chalked up to just getting old. Little or no attention is spent on testing for hormonal levels, and we are really left out there trying to figure this out. I'm 71 and never had hot flashes, but I started to have sleep problems in my 50s plus, which is when my premenopausal started. During my menopausal phase, the sleep issues worsened. Lately, I get what I assume are hot flashes, not really very bad and quite irregular though. My insomnia appears to be cyclical, while I feel which I feel coincides with my premenstrual cycles. Have any of the ladies you work with experienced similar issues?
So yeah, first of all, I'm sorry to hear that, because that's really, really bothersome. Can I just ask where this person, where does this person live? Where is it?
In New York.
Okay. Yeah, just interesting to hear, because when it comes to the medical profession, I think that it's very different, isn't it, in the States to the UK and Europe. I mean, things are really changing here. The traditionally the GPs haven't really, it's not been a big part of their curriculum, women's health in general, and especially not probably the menopause. So you have found that a lot of doctors here, they haven't really been up to date, I guess. I'm not generalizing. I'm just saying that I hear this from a lot of women. When they go to the GP, then maybe being given antidepressants or sent for further tests, which is highly unnecessary, really. If the doctor looked at all the symptoms together, they would know that this is most likely perimenopause, menopause. So this is changing here, I know for sure, and there's some real advocates, doctors going into training GP surgeries in the UK. I think it's really important before you go to see a doctor that you're prepared and you keep track of your own journey. And so you could do a journal, write down what happens, what sort of symptoms or signs do you have, and how often and when do they happen. So the more prepared you are, the better when you go in there. There is a really good website, My Menopause. I can't remember. I think I sent it to you, or I will send it.
Okay, yeah, I put all the links in the everything you sent. I put them in the
okay,
comment
good
section.
Because in there you can they have like a symptom tracker within that website, so that's quite useful to use for yourself. So yes, I mean, I think I hear from a lot of women that they have not been given the help. They have to go back to doctors many times before they finally meet somebody who is, compassionate and understanding. So what I understand is that there's no need to do blood tests unless you're under 45 and you have an earlier perimenopause. But if you're 45 or over, symptoms should be enough for the doctor to give you the what's it called, the word to tell you whether you are in perimenopause, menopause, because also our hormones fluctuate so much, so it could be very different in the morning to late at night, for example. So blood tests won't necessarily be accurate, but if you're 45 younger, then yes, tests may be necessary.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
There was this is not a question, it's a kind of a statement that this person wrote, and it said that they didn't want any more children, but there was an underlying fear which arose by the fact that now they couldn't have children, and that fear was not really expressed or heard talked about.
I know. I think it's really, it's very good you bring that up, because I think that's a very big thing for many women. It's almost like a sense of loss of something that's now over. And that can really impact women quite deeply, I think. So that's another. There's a lot of layers here that you have to deal with, and I've heard that before. So know that you're not alone. Whoever said that in this, that's the whole thing with the whole. And this is the reason why I'm doing this work as well, because women can feel so lonely going through this, yet it's such a collective thing. So it's so important to have these talks and women coming together to know that they are not alone, and it's very normal to feel the way that you do.
Yeah. And I think this question leads on from that, is that there was a sense of regret which came during the menopause. I think it was just looking back at your life and the things that you haven't done, or things that you, whatever it was. And just this feeling of not being able to speak about it with anybody.
Yeah. Again, I think that's not uncommon, and I think that's also, again, what I'm wanting to do with my courses and programs, because I feel that's where I've come myself in a way. I've been on that journey, and really do, if you think that the average age in this country of women living until they're 81, we still have a long way, hopefully, to go. And we have so much to offer still, and still so much to learn and explore. And, the whole conversation we had last week about finding our purpose and passion. And maybe this is the time to actually finally do that, when maybe, if you have children, maybe they're older and you have more time. And so I view it as an opportunity, but I understand the looking back and feeling sadness for what you haven't achieved, of course. But at the end of the day, I think that this is a great opportunity to do things you didn't have a chance to do.
There's a question which is to do with work, which is, what happens when you have a woman boss who's not understanding?
A woman boss who's not understanding.
Understanding, yes.
Yeah, it's a good question. I think that the best thing to do is still to have that conversation with someone, whether you start with your colleagues, or you go to the HR department. Ultimately, here in this country, again, there is 24%, I think, of companies now, I might be wrong there, but there's a huge amount more this year than last year, have implemented a menopause policy. And they have menopause champions at work. They have done things like give women more flexibility so that they can work from home, if they haven't slept. It's so important, though, that the employer understands and implements, supports to women going through it. So I would start by booking a meeting, whether it is with your boss. I presume she doesn't want to talk to her then in the first instance. So maybe HR or somebody else at work who may be more understanding. And again, be prepared. Just, know what you want to discuss with her, and think about support systems that could be in place at work that you feel would help. A lot of companies, like I said, have menopause champions, so that's the person they would be able to go and talk to. They may have set up menopause cafes, and there may be fans, there may be sanitary products in the toilets. There's a lot of things a company can do to support women here. And I'm working with women in corporate as well. So whether you have a policy or not, it's still really important that your workplace has something in place. So I think be brave and start the conversation, because it's really going to help not just yourself, but all the other women around you. And they will be so grateful to you for doing that.
There's a question here. It says, how do I put this? It said, are there better ways so I don't have to suffer? And I found that very interesting, the way it was put, in regards to find ways so I don't have to suffer. The word suffering was kind of, menopause and suffering was kind of tied together.
Yeah.
And I thought that was really interesting how that question came out.
Yeah, I'm sorry to hear that you are suffering. There are many ways, and it depends very much also on how you are going through it. What are what are the challenges? There is definitely a lot of resources and help out there. and you don't have to suffer. You shouldn't suffer. So, I mean, please feel free to reach out to me. I'd be very happy to talk to you. Or so shouldn't suffer. No. Just depends. I can't really say exactly what to do because I don't know what your, challenges are.
Yeah.
But again, you're not alone in suffering, but no one should have to suffer. Yeah.
The question I have to ask, because I was told you have to ask this question, is there anything that happens to the human energy field? And it related, and also related to chakras. Do you know anything about that?
Oh, that's the part in yoga I didn't study very well. I can't, with confidence, I can't talk about it. I'm sure you can talk about it better than I do, but I believe in energy and I believe in manifestations, and but I can't really talk comprehensively about the energy levels. I'm sorry. That's my honest answer. There will be experts out there. So,
from you personally, have you felt, that there has been maybe in this time to stop and reflect? Do you have noticed things, opportunities that maybe you didn't see before, seeing things a different way? Have you found that yourself?
Yes, definitely. Absolutely. Yeah. So I think that started really, during perimenopause. And it was also because of circumstances, that happened. I went through divorce. So that ultimately also, when you go through something traumatic or upsetting in your life, I think often you make changes, and so that's what I did. So I dived deeper into self-development work, yoga, mindfulness, and all this. And so for me, it's become a natural kind of way leading me to do this work, and now starting my coaching journey, and feeling like I'm really grateful for all those experiences, and now I can go out and offer this to other women. Yeah, definitely. I think, like I said before as well, a great opportunity. This is a great opportunity to embrace and do things that you haven't so far done in your life. Yeah, that's how I feel.
Yeah, wonderful. Yeah, I don't have any more. Do you have any? Is there any more questions?
There was one thing here that I think Torild might like. It's from Elisabetta in Italy.
Oh, yeah.
She said she is 57 years old and the menopause for 6 years. But for her, it was a very pleasant and beautiful experience. She immediately accepted the new cycle of life and embraced it. She believes that because of this, she did not go through all of the nasty symptoms that most women report, like big hot flushes and putting on weight, mood swings, etc. She was aware of all the changes in her body and welcomed it. She did not have any negative thoughts or expectations. In fact, she felt liberated and freed from the monthly periods and all that comes with it. She said that she advises every woman not to be scared or expect this is commonly said to, not to be scared. And she believes that when you expect it to be like that, then you kind of manifest it. And it's to be present with it.
Yes, I mean, that's lovely. That's so nice to hear. And I think that's really wonderful. It sounds like she was prepared of what was to come, which for me is the whole kind of answer to embracing it as well, is to be informed and know what to expect. It's like, for myself, I've been lucky to have children, and so I was, when I felt prepared before childbirth, it was so much better. You knew what to expect. You can, although you don't know exactly, but the same thing here. If women are educated and they know what may happen, etc., it's so much easier. It also sounds like she probably is into some practices that would have helped her anyway. And I just read somewhere today by a yoga teacher, actually, because there's a lot of, I did menopause yoga teacher training myself, and there's a few benefits. But another thing I read today is that it's shown in research now that if you meditate every day for, I think it said 20 minutes over a period of 8 weeks, it was shown to reduce your hot flushes. So it may well be also that she already lives a very holistic lifestyle, or but that's really lovely to hear. Really nice, and that would be a gift if more women could experience it like this. And again, welcome in the new, and kind of be be sort of grateful for what lies ahead and be excited about it. That would be amazing if more women felt like that. So thanks for sharing.
Wonderful. And if you don't feel like that, that's fine too. That there's a lot of support and help to guide you to that place. So I know that you have to leave in a couple of minutes. So is there anything that you didn't get to discuss that you would have liked to? So, like, is there any question that you would have liked to hear?
I think nothing that I can kind of think of right now. I think that there's little things, that can really help. We talked about it last week, but there's if you're feeling this sense of overwhelm and anxiety attacks and these things, and if hot flushes hit you at work, it's very beneficial to have a breath practice to regulate your nervous system. And these things don't have to be big things. It could be breathing in for 4, exhaling for 6, slower exhale than inhale. Simple tools like this. Writing down your emotions, what you're experiencing. There's a lot of resources out there now. There's many books. There's a lot on the website. So just inform yourself, I would say, to everyone out there, and talk to each other. Just open up and start a menopause group together, and please feel free to reach out. I'd love to work with you. And that's all really. But it's been really a pleasure to be here with you.
Yeah, the pleasure is ours. It's been wonderful. I learned so much, and just really, really enjoyed it. Thank you for coming back for part 2. I'm glad that we got some questions in from women who have had experience with this and have some concerns that weren't expressed by us from our male perspective, in the first podcast. So I'm glad that we had the opportunity to ask some of these questions.
Thank you.
And thank you for the phrase, the second spring.
Oh yeah, I love that.
I love that you're using it. It's fantastic.
Yeah, that's so good.